The Thunderdome era begins in earnest, and there's something beautifully ironic about the fact that one of the highlights of a show with the tagline, "You'll never see it coming," was something that we saw coming from a million miles away. Bet you didn't see that coming. This is SummerSlam 2020 Graded. On the Kickoff show, we say farewell to Renee Young, thank you for the memories, and we see Apollo Crews defending his United States Championship against MVP. MVP's got new music, and there's new Hurt Business merch. Looks very, very nice. Old school pace kept by MVP until Apollo Crews turns the tide with a dive. They go back and forth from there. Match ends with MVP going for the playmaker. Crews turns it into a toss powerbomb for the 1, 2, 3. Hurt Business come out after the match that they're going to beat up Crews like they have been doing on Raw, and Crews ducks out of there and he's away with his title. C+ to get us started. It was fine. Wasn't the most exciting match ever. Pretty slow, but it was like serviceable. Did the job. Crews maybe now moving on to some new challenges as US champion. We will see. The show starts proper with Asuka's first match of the night, challenging Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Strong start for Asuka, hitting a DDT off the steel steps. Bayley manages to claw back some control with a stun gun cutter, which looked really nice. Bayley hits a belly to belly out of absolutely nowhere and only gets a 2, and it kind of dents her confidence somewhat. Regardless of that, she continues to work over the leg of Asuka throughout this match, and at one point she's got a leg lock tied in on Asuka, and you can see the crowd in all the LCD screens. They all start clapping. It almost feels like a normal wrestling show again. Asuka fights back through the pain despite the fact that Bayley keeps working on that leg. End comes when she goes for a hip attack into the ropes, but Sasha Banks steps in and takes the move on behalf of Bayley, and in the confusion, Bayley manages to get a roll up onto Asuka for the 1, 2, 3. B+ for this one. Great start to the night. Love the work that they did here. It wasn't the best match I think they've had together, but it was still really good to see it happen. And the finish as well told a really good story with Sasha taking that bullet for Bayley. I wonder if Bayley would do the same. I wonder if we'll find out by the end of the night. After a Mysterio family powwow, we get a video package about the shenanigans of Retribution. Why would you put together a video package of a group of hoodlums that have been ruining your show? It's a bit like if somebody burgled my house and I gave them a recommendation on LinkedIn. It's a bit odd. Kevin Owens makes his way out next. He is on commentary duty for the Raw Tag Team title match between Angel Garza and Andrade and the Street Profits. They do this bit with the Profits where it rains red cups, but I don't know whether it was my screen or whether I was tired. I don't know. Didn't really cut through. You couldn't really see the red cups on the screen. I don't know whether there's a different way of doing that. I like the idea of that. I like how the entrances are bigger and badder and broader. Now we're outside of the Performance Center, but I don't think that really cut through for me. Ford started hot until he got caught doing a dive outside the ring by Andrade and Garza and just dropped onto the floor unceremoniously. Ford ends up on the back foot in a lot of this. He's getting beaten down by both Andrade and Angel Garza until he lands an enziguri and gets a flying hot tag to Dawkins, who runs wild for about a minute, and then Ford gets back into the match. End sequence comes when we have Garza and Ford fighting in the ring. Zelina Vega gets onto the apron. We see Garza kick Ford. He stumbles back into Vega, who comes off the apron. Then Andrade goes round to check on Vega, leaving Garza all alone. He eats a spine buster and then a brilliant spinning frog splash from Montez Ford. The height, the spin, 10 on 10 for you, sir. 1, 2, 3 ends this match. Not a long match, I think about just over 10 minutes for this one. Giving it a B-. It felt like a sort of short, tight TV match. It was very good for the bits that were there. There is that continuous story of Andrade and Angel Garza not quite gelling as a team. Street Profits remain strong as a tag team as well. We hear from the Golden Role Models, who are promising a clean sweep tonight. Bayley's even got a broom to complete the dad joke. And we hear from some talking WWE ice cream sandwiches. Yeah, that was a thing. Back in the ring though, Mandy Rose takes on Sonya Deville. This was meant to be hair versus hair, but the clippers have been put away, and it's now no disqualification. Loser leaves WWE. We immediately fight outside the ring. This feels like a proper Attitude Era scrap, complete with Mandy Rose hitting a suplex on the ramp. That was a classic from back in the day. Mandy Rose here is just on fire. She also hits a diving clothesline off of the announce desk onto Sonya Deville. She has some trouble putting a table up. Once she eventually does get the table upright, here's Sonya Deville with a steel chair, who then takes control. Nearly gets a win with a running knee, nearly gets a submission with a dragon sleeper, and is just berating Mandy Rose, calling her pathetic, trying to get her to come on and give her more of a fight. Mandy fights back into this. Angry attacks here. Lots of running knees from Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose goes to this running knee well quite a lot. It's a bit like when you're playing somebody on No Mercy and they're playing for the first time and they've just discovered a really powerful move. Just gonna keep doing that, just gonna keep doing that. They end up fighting outside the ring again. Mandy Rose on one side of the table, Sonya Deville on the other. And Mandy is sliding chairs across the table, trying to take Sonya's head off. Looked a little bit cartoony here, but I quite liked the spot. It was a bit different. They get back into the ring, and Sonya attempts to drop her with the double underhook slam. Mandy gets out of it. Big running knee. Double underhook of her own. Big running knee. Big running knee. Big running knee. 1, 2, 3. All the knees. Mandy Rose beats Sonya Deville. Afterwards, Otis heads out and he celebrates with Mandy. She even attempts a caterpillar, which isn't particularly auspicious. However, despite that, this match was a B. I genuinely wasn't expecting these two to go at it the way they did. I was really impressed with the work that Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville did. Sonya's been excellent overall on SmackDown. Just an underrated talent on SmackDown. And obviously real life events have meant that she looks like she's taking some time away from things. And we send nothing but love and hope to see her back soon, because genuinely, I think there's big things for Sonya. And Mandy Rose was great in this role as well. Like, Mandy was pulling out some big stuff in this one. Fair play to them both. They flipping went for it. Seth Rollins faces Dominik Mysterio next in a street fight. Rollins is wearing gear modelled on Rey Mysterio's Halloween Havoc 97 attire. Man games. Seth tries to out-wrestle Dominik at the start, and then Dominik surprises him with a bit of the graps, and then it becomes the scrappy street fight that we all know and love. We see kendo sticks pulled out, Dom smashing Seth with a couple, then we see Seth getting his own back, we see tables getting involved as well. Great bit late into the match where we have the table set up in the ring, and Seth and Dominik are fighting on the top. It looks like Seth's going to put Dom through the table. Dominik manages to push back, shows that he has been watching some classic ECW, gets the old kendo stick, puts it between him and Seth, hits a White Russian leg sweep, bang through the table. Little homage to the Sandman there. I'm hoping that Dominik will next time wrestle with a cigarette in his mouth, wearing baggy jeans full of cans of beer, and walking out to Metallica songs. Mysterio gets a near fall off a frog splash following White Russian leg sweep action, and Rollins gets back into this with an aggressive powerbomb and shots with the kendo stick. Even whips off Dominik's vest and just starts wailing on him with the kendo stick some more. There's a lot going on around the ring at this point. Rey Mysterio being taunted by Seth Rollins constantly as he's getting just the licks in on his son like this. Angie Mysterio makes her way out to the ring now, and Rey Mysterio heads up the ramp to try and stop her from coming out to get involved. The confusion allows Dominik a chance to roll up Seth for a near fall. Buddy then gets involved, tries to gouge the eye of Dominik, and in amongst all of this confusion, Rey then physically gets involved and tries to wipe out Murphy. They end up handcuffing Rey Mysterio to the rope in all of this, and Rey is handcuffed to the rope and has to watch as Dominik fights on his own. Dominik gets one more little push in this match, manages to take down Seth and hit a frog splash, but as he's on the landing for the frog splash, Seth gets the knees up and he's just smirking as he holds Dominik's face to his dad, and Rey can't get to him, and he has to watch as Seth takes a few steps back, hits the curb stomp, and just stares just stares unblinkingly at Ray as he pins his son 1, 2, 3. He then drops the key to the handcuff onto the prone body of Dominik Mysterio and takes his leave. And after they've gone, Ray gets unlocked and they hug in the ring, and you can see Ray saying how proud he is of his son. It was a really cool moment. The match itself, I'm giving an A to. Personally, I thought it was a brilliant story, really well told. I thought for his first wrestling match, Dominik Mysterio looked great. I think he saw Pat McAfee on Saturday and saw how everybody was talking about him having like the greatest debut match ever. And Dominik went, hold my beer. I thought he was brilliant here. Now, I'm very aware that, you know, a world-class dance routine involves two people. And he was with a great dance partner in Seth Rollins, who played a role beautifully. But top marks to Dominik Mysterio. To have your first proper match on a stage like this, that's a big deal. That's a lot of pressure. And I thought he was great. I've seen mixed reviews online about him, but I love the match. I love the story they told. I loved the fight that Dominik had. I loved everybody played their role perfectly. This has been my favourite bit of the show so far. We get commercials for WWE 2K Battlegrounds, a bit like Coventry. It'll look lovely when it's finished. And we get an advert for World of Tanks as well. Why Shotzi Blackheart is not involved in World of Tanks? I have no idea. You've literally just thrown away a license to print money. And Asuka is back out for her second match of the evening. She's challenging Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship. Asuka injured from earlier on. Bayley did a right number on Asuka's leg, and Sasha just goes straight for the leg from here, just finding different ways to wear down and grab at and pull at the leg of Asuka. But she continues to kick on despite that. They end up fighting on the ring apron at one point, and we see Asuka go for a kick on Sasha. Sasha moves, and Asuka ends up kicking the ring post. And in a split second later, Sasha is leaping onto Asuka. She hits a perfect sunset flip, sit-out powerbomb outside of the ring, takes out Asuka completely on the floor. This was a really cool move. Asuka just doesn't stay down though. She hits a DDT off the top rope and a missile dropkick onto Sasha. We see Sasha and Bayley have a pep talk, which fires up Sasha, and she runs straight into an Asuka lock. She's in the Asuka lock. She manages to fight out of it, turn it into a bank statement, back into an Asuka lock. She manages to break out of that as well. And then we see history start to repeat itself. As Sasha is near the ropes, we see Asuka going to run for that hip attack. Remember earlier when Sasha took the hip attack for Bayley? Bayley's on the apron. Here comes Asuka. Bayley moves. And there's just like a moment in time where everybody pauses. A bit like you've just buggered up a quick time event. You see Asuka look at Bayley, take her out with a smack to the face. Shortly after this, we see Sasha end up back in the Asuka lock, and she taps out. And Asuka is the new Raw Women's Champion. Bayley looking frustrated outside of the ring, and Sasha just looking devastated by this development. Giving this an A, brilliant work from both here. Sasha Banks has been a force of nature over the last few months. Her and Bayley, the Golden Role Models, have been doing some great work on TV and on pay-per-view. Asuka is a world-class athlete as well. And the story here, on a pay-per-view which is called You'll Never See It Coming, like this, we did see coming, but the fact they went with the obvious answer, I'm delighted with. Like sometimes the things that are the most predictable are the right things to happen. And this was an incredibly predictable outcome, i.e. Bayley somehow keeping her belt with the help of Sasha, but then Sasha losing her belt and Bayley not able to return the favour. Oh, it just continues to plant beautiful seeds for what is going to be a wonderful Bayley and Banks garden. The semi-main event goes to the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre defending against Randall Keith. Randall Keith. Drew is furious at the start of this match because Orton's controlling the pace and he's controlling the narrative. And he rolls out of the ring. He's just keeping his distance from Drew. On 2 occasions, he goes for an RKO and nearly gets it. Drew rolls out of the ring after the second one, just frustrated that he's being caught out by Orton. Ends up going for a third, still not quite getting it, but Orton drives Drew into the turnbuckle, and that's where he takes control. Orton works over Drew's eye for quite a bit of this match, with like knees to the eye and punches in that direction as well. When Drew has a figure four on Orton, we see Orton use the thumb to the eye where the referee is distracted to break it. And we see blood coming out of Drew's eye at this point as well. McIntyre fights back into this match with an overhead superplex and a future shock DDT for near falls. Orton fighting back in this as well, hitting a quick spinning power slam and a draping DDT. Not quite getting the win though. Orton looks to go for the RKO, changes his mind, and reels back for a punt instead. But as he runs at McIntyre for the punt, McIntyre turns it into a big old powerbomb. He's then sizing up Orton for the Claymore, charges at Orton for the Claymore, and Orton manages to duck out of it. Orton goes for the RKO one more time. Drew manages to fight out of it, turns it into a roll-up via a backslide for the 1, 2, 3. And with the backslide, Drew McIntyre has beat Randy Orton. Orton's outside the ring, just looking rather miffed about the situation. Drew holds the belt up, saying, "This is our belt." Drew McIntyre, a proud WWE champion. This was a B. Really liked Act 1 and Act 3. I thought Act 2 dragged a little bit, which is why the grade came down. But happy to see Drew McIntyre continue his reign as WWE champion. And you know what? There was a lovely moment tonight where Drew walked out, looked at the crowd and went, "This is cool." Because Drew has been a WWE champion inside the Performance Center since he won the belt. This is the first time, and probably the closest he has come so far, to performing as WWE champion in front of a crowd. We're getting closer to Drew getting his first proper championship pop. We're getting closer. Let's see if we can keep the belt long enough to get one. Not one to sound biased, but get to the best part of the night now. Keith Lee getting called up to Raw. Don't you? Main event o'clock, and it is Braun Strowman defending his WWE Universal Championship against The Fiend. And this is where we were reminded of just how cool it is to be out of the Performance Center. Like a Fiend entrance back in an arena with the Thunderdome setup looked really cool. This is a weird main event. Fiend is laughing as Braun's beating him up to start. He then hits a Uranagi out of nowhere, does the Fiend. They fight outside the ring where Fiend hits Braun in the guts with a toolbox. Braun retaliates by shoulder barging him through the barricade and then tries to choke slam him through the table, but the table doesn't budge. Back in the ring, he hits his old running power slam, but only gets a 2. They end up fighting up the ramp, fighting into the gorilla position where the Fiend's old red lighting came back. Somebody lit the gorilla position with red lighting. He hits a Sister Abigail in gorilla, only gets a 2 there. They eventually make their way back towards the ring with Fiend in control of Braun Strowman. Once they get back towards the ring, Braun is taking control once again. They end up squabbling a bit more around the ring before getting into the ring. Braun hits the running power slam, only gets a 2. Then he rolls out of the ring to the toolbox, picks up a Stanley knife. Random. Gets into the ring, starts cutting the ring apart. Like, cuts open the ring, pulls all the fluff back and all of this stuff, exposes the wood. By the time he's done that, Fiend's power has completely recovered. He's taken a Phoenix down. And as Braun is Braun is furious about this, and he just stands there as Fiend comes at him, hits a Sister Abigail, a Uranagi, a Sister Abigail, 1, 2, 3. Braun Strowman lost the Universal Championship to The Fiend, just like that. The Fiend is once again the Universal Champion. We've got Fiend holding up the Universal title after the match, and suddenly out of nowhere, boom, there's a spear. A wild Roman Reigns appears. Reigns is wailing on the Fiend. He rolls out of the ring, hits a spear on Braun Strowman, clatters Strowman with a chair, screaming about how he couldn't be a monster without him. Then Roman gets into the ring, drops another spear at the Fiend, holds up the Universal Championship, calls him a freak in a mask, says he can't hang, and basically saying, like, I'm the only one that can hold this up. And that is how we end the night. Roman Reigns just destroying everything. The main event was a B- for me. The match itself was fine, bit ploddy. Finish was a bit weird, like Braun Strowman gives up trying to beat the Fiend the conventional way, so goes a bit DIY SOS. Ends up losing, bit odd. Roman Reigns coming back picked everything up. It was good to see Roman back again. My one issue with it is, like, you've got the Fiend, who's such a cool character, And I know the bloom is well and truly off the rose with Bray Wyatt's creation here, but it just feels like he was just fed to Roman and humanized a bit. And I think he's going to lose the belt next week to Roman as well. And it's like, what's the point? What is the point? But as a main event, it certainly didn't feel like a SummerSlam main event. It certainly felt like a cool segment, but it didn't have that energy of a SummerSlam main event. It really didn't. But as I say, it wasn't terrible, but it's getting a B- from me, which I know in my grading system probably is the same as somebody else's E. I don't know. But that's my thought, a B-. It wasn't terrible, it could have been much better, and Roman picked up the grade. Overall, SummerSlam 2020 is a B from me. There were some great surprises. Dominik Mysterio's first in-ring performance. Sonya, Deville and Mandy going all Attitude Era. The return of Romulus Reigns. But in amongst there was one bit that wasn't a surprise at all, which is actually one of the best parts of the night, and that is the continued self-destruction of the 21st century mega powers that is the Golden Role Models. The story they played on this particular night, I predicted in predictions, and I'm sure a few other people did as well. But just because something is predictable doesn't make it wrong. I thought this was perfect, the way they played it off. So it's just funny how one of the more predictable things of the night was one of the better parts of a night where we didn't see it coming. I like that kind of beautiful irony, don't you? Stay safe. Love you, bye.